What's up, my friends? It is Stormy, aka Alive Pool. Yeah, what's up, DeadPool? What's up now? And welcome back to another fresh from the theater reaction. So guys, today I just returned from seeing Deadpool 2. And what is my initial reaction fresh from the theater? Well, it was okay. Yeah guys, for me in particular, this was just kind of like a middle-of-the-road film for me. This film felt a lot like Super Troopers 2. I just recently saw Super Troopers 2 as well. Big fan of that movie, big fan of Broken Lizard, but it just didn't do it for me. There was just something about it where it was, I recognized that it was a good comedy, but it also wasn't a good comedy. It was like one of those dead middle-of-the-road movies where it's not good and it's not bad. That's the kind of feeling that I have coming out of Deadpool, where it's like, I had fun watching it, there is some fun to be had with Deadpool, but it just didn't feel like the first Deadpool did. The first Deadpool, it was Ryan Reynolds back at playing the role that he was always meant to play. Everybody was so excited to see him finally in this role, and for me, I was going in just like this movie as a general fan. I'm not a superhero guy, I don't follow superheroes at all, so I don't really know Deadpool, right? But even I was surprised at how Ryan Reynolds really portrayed that role, and the entire story that was revolving around Deadpool 2. It was very entertaining, it was very funny, so going into Deadpool 2, I thought, oh, this is just going to be more of the same, right? And it was. The tone, the two movies feel similar, the tone of the two movies is very similar, but this one, there's just less weight. Or maybe you could argue that there's too much weight with this movie. See, because the problem with this movie is that, without getting into any spoilers here, the storyline revolving around this movie just tries to tie in too much emotional backstory. It tries to tie in too many dramatics, right? And there was some dramatics in the first Deadpool movie, but really, the first Deadpool movie were just explosions and funny lines and vulgar humor and Deadpool's awesome action sequences tied with this great kind of, that humor that you only get with Deadpool movies. And with this one, it was more of the same in that respect, but it didn't feel like the first Deadpool movie did, and that was because they tried to tie too many emotions to it. I mean, if you guys can believe it, through the first quarter of this movie, we have a depressed, crying Deadpool trying to deal with his emotions. And it's kind of like, you find yourself, the entire first act of this movie just drags, because it's like, they throw some stuff at you that you're not expecting, and the entire, first half of the movie, you're kind of like, okay, like, I'm trying to figure out what's going on here, like, I'm trying to go with the flow, I'm trying to kind of let the movie unfold as it does, but as you go through the movie, you find less of what the first movie was bringing, which was this kind of vulgar, in-your-face action movie, and that almost takes, it almost sidesteps, it almost takes a kind of side seat, a kind of like a sidecar seat, to this emotional story that's trying to play out. And they're trying to tie these new characters to this emotional story that's going on, but that doesn't hold any weight. It's just kind of like, it's one of those situations where it's like, okay, Deadpool cares about this person for reasons, and those reasons are why we should care about the reasons, and there's more reasons, and by the end of the movie, it kind of dissolves into this kind of, so the story is trying to set something up that isn't there. It's trying to make you believe in something that isn't there. It's trying to pound it into you, even though the story shouldn't be unfolding. And, if all of that sounds confusing to you guys, because I know it does sound a little bit scatterbrained, it's because it is. See, like, the first Deadpool was a really straightforward movie. This one is slightly less straightforward. This one has more elements to it. It has more dynamics to it. It has more components to it. And I think that's where the movie runs itself into a lot of problems, is that Deadpool is just, pulling some guy's pants down while he says a vulgar line and explosions go off and he chops some dude's head off. Deadpool is vulgar humor and violence and big epic spectacles. You don't need anything more than those three elements. So what this movie does is it takes those three elements and it adds two more elements to those elements to make you care about the rest of what's going on, when we don't need that. We don't need all of these other story components going on. We just want to see Deadpool be Deadpool. However, with all that said, I did have a fun time at this movie. I mean, there is a lot of fun to be had with this movie. You know, where this movie really shines is the action sequences, of course. You know, Ryan Reynolds is still doing a great job at playing the character of Deadpool, although sometimes it can feel a little forced. I will say that some of the comedy feels a little forced. It feels less like Ryan Reynolds playing Deadpool and more like, Ryan Reynolds playing Deadpool, like really playing up to the camera. There's a lot more kind of like playing to the camera humor, which didn't necessarily work, but I still had a blast. You know, the action sequences are still A+. There's a lot. I mean, the action sequences were awesome. You know, it's Ryan Reynolds playing up Deadpool to the 11th degree. You know what I'm saying? All the while, there's all this violent action, really, really super violent action going on, but very well choreographed as well. The action in Deadpool is always really well choreographed. Actually, you know what? In any Marvel movie, you're going to get really well choreographed action sequences and fight sequences, and here, once again, you get that. So the movie is very, very entertaining. This movie is going to keep you entertained, but the problem is that the movie has too much boredom. I mean, I was sitting through this movie at certain points and I was like, man, you know, I can't believe I'm bored watching a Deadpool movie, but it was because of these emotional stories. It's because of this emotional understory that they try to tie into the story. It just doesn't work. We don't need it. It takes away from Deadpool being Deadpool, and then you don't have Deadpool. So guys, now it's finally time for me to score this thing, and you know, it sounds like I'm bashing this movie, but really this is still a movie that you can go in and see it with an audience and have some good laughs and have a fun, entertaining time. It is a decent movie. It's a good movie, but it's nowhere near great. You know what I mean? And I was surprised by the first Deadpool movie, not being a superhero fan, right? I was really on board with the first Deadpool movie. I said, okay, this is funny, this is great. This movie here, not so much, right? It's not so much. It's still a decent movie, but it's just not great. So for that reason, I'm going with a kind of decent score of, bam, 55%. Yeah guys, 55% what I got. Like I said, it kind of felt a lot like Super Troopers 2, where it's like, it's just a dead middle of the road film. A Deadpool, pun, right? Alright, that's enough. It's just a middle-of-the-road film. Basically, like, it's a 50% film, and the only reason that I'm giving it that extra 5% is because, you know, a lot of the humor in this movie did work. You know, there are a lot of laugh-out-loud moments, like I said. Make sure you guys go see this with an audience because there are a lot of funny moments, classic Deadpool humor, but the rest of the movie just wasn't there for me. The rest of the movie just felt kind of hollow. It was almost like, okay, it's time to do Deadpool 2, so throw together a movie. You know, because that's what it really feels like. It feels like some parts of the movie are just too jumbled and too thrown together, and it's just not Deadpool enough. So 55% is what I've got. But again, guys, I'm just one opinion. Now it's time for you guys to tell me what you thought. Well, my friends, that's going to do it for this fresh from the theater reaction to Deadpool 2. Now it's time for you guys to leave all of your thoughts, opinions, and your scores, of course, down below in the Great White Void. And as always, until next we meet, take care, and I'll see you guys back here for the next fresh from the theater review very soon. But now it's time for me to go take my prison shank and meet my friends in the dark alleyway around the corner, because it's time for me to